We are living in a time of extremes. And these extremes are both a reflection of an old consciousness that can no longer survive and a future consciousness in which planet Earth herself and all of us on Earth are transforming. This old consciousness is driven by hatred, violence, prejudice, anger, suffering, competition, and pain. Emotions that serve to seduce us into believing we are separate from one another. The illusion of separation taxes and divides individuals, communities, societies, countries, and Mother Earth herself. The mindlessness, carelessness, greed, and disrespect of human activity is threatening life as we know it. By pure logic and reason, this type of consciousness cannot sustain itself for much longer. Welcome, listener. And sorry to start you off on such a sober note, but that paragraph is one that is really important to me. It's a paragraph from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I wanted to read it to you because I think it summarizes pretty well what I'm trying to do here by putting together and hosting this show. Sometimes we cover topics that sound large, that sound spiritual, that sound philosophical or psychological. But there's a reason for that, and it's something I want to make a note to say that it shouldn't scare anyone away, and that for those who, often like myself, actually are very practical-minded, it is a very practical thing for us to be discussing, so that we can all learn who we should show up as being, and how the most important influencers, the leaders, hopefully like yourselves, must show up as being. This show isn't just about finding or learning about leaders or leadership. It's about much more. It's about discovering what being a leader really means, and through that, discovering that you might just be one of them. And it begs an interesting question. Can everyone be a leader? I suppose that depends on your definition, your understanding of what it means to be a leader and of leadership. There's an argument to be made that a real leader isn't necessarily in a leadership position, and that we all have an inner leader, inner wisdom within us all. It's just about tapping into it and becoming familiar with it. Like any habit, it can be built over time. Access to the person we most want to be within can be easy. It can be common. It can become whoever we want to be. But we all know what it's like to sink back into this feeling of being angry or being sad or being hurt or being egotistically driven. And it's natural. It's human. It isn't to be judged or angry at. That's only a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That's only asking for what you deserve and creating more of it. What's more challenging is to have a sense of who we do want to be, who we do want to become. And that speaks to what this is all about. I'm on a journey of figuring that out for myself every day, a little bit more every day. Every time I think I get closer, I realize I'm actually much further than I always thought. The goalpost is always moving because your perspective is always updating as you go further along the road, as you go further down the road of this journey. And I'm sure you've figured out the same. If you haven't, you will as you continue to listen to this show, I'm sure. Because some of the people we have coming on are giving us perspectives already, even in such early days, about all kinds of things that are not always easy to tap into. Some audiences will resonate more with some things and less with others. Sometimes you'll get from this show complementary experiences. Sometimes you'll get confusing experiences or completely contradictory experiences. And that's part of the nature of the learning, because being a leader requires this perspective that is beyond us. It's beyond either one of us, yourself, myself, or anything that we've been through. That is kind of empathy, and it's a good place for us to start this show. And, why is all this important? About a week ago, I released another video like this, talking to the camera, to kind of introduce myself. If you haven't listened to it, that might give you a little bit of context. What I want to speak to now is just a little bit more of what I started to hint at there, which is why I started this show, but from a bigger picture perspective, and where that relates to you, why you and I need to be on this journey, why we must be on this journey, who we must be excited and electrified to become the best us's that we can be, and why the time is now to do that. And the short answer is with a thought experiment that I've been playing over in my head for the last year or two. And it goes a little something like this. Imagine whatever the most challenging experience is that you've ever had in your life. Why was it there? What caused it? There's a small chance it was a force of nature, but there is a much larger chance that someone's decisions, someone's perspectives, someone's biases, someone's systems, someone's lack of perspective, or someone's personal shit that was getting in the way of how they showed up in the world, something as simple as that, something as basic and personal as that, there's a high chance that something like that is what created whatever the situation was that you went through. Whether it's consistent experiences that add up, or it was one or two greater traumas that have impacted you. Whether it was a system that you were born into, or whether it's systems we see externally that affect us emotionally and that we know shouldn't be going on. Things like wars that we feel are super outdated should probably just go away. And that's a perspective that, as naive as it might sound, is probably something a lot of us want, whether it sounds naive or not. And that's important because while often what we want isn't what we need, that doesn't mean that what we want should be ignored. In fact, one of the reasons we get caught in cycles in life, or we procrastinate, or we delay things that are important to us, such as me delaying starting this show, is because we don't listen to what we want. If what we want comes from a place of greater inner wisdom, or it comes from a place of passion and care, and we ignore it completely in the face of something that seems scary or some other kind of unhelpful emotion, then what good are we doing? And are we serving ourselves being on this journey towards being the best leader that we could possibly be, just the best person we could possibly be, which I'd argue means we'd all be showing up more as leaders. And to conclude that thought experiment, if that's what we were doing, if more of us were showing up as that kind of person, how many of these challenges, the challenges that have affected you or that affect others that you'd like to stop, those systems, those traumas, those people or those patterns, what's going to change it? If not the people that caused those consequences that you had to deal with, that all of us are still dealing with. And I get that it's not easy. I never said it was. It's not easy. It's not simple. But if we only did the things that were simple and easy, I wouldn't be talking to a smartphone camera right now to convey this message to you, nor would any of us be doing anything that was particularly transformative in any way, shape, or form at all. We're at a time in history where we need to ask ourselves a very serious question. What's next? What is next? Are we going to keep blindly going forward? Or are we going to stop a little bit, take a deep breath, and ask ourselves where we're going and why? And before you get overwhelmed thinking about all the things you can transform, know that that's not the point. The point is to learn as much as we can about how we work on ourselves, because the only thing you can affect is what is within. When I was younger, I lived in Nepal for a little while, and the Nepalese have a proverb that I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but goes something like, if there is no enemy within, there can be no enemy without. And they're not the only ones that have proverbs like that. I think it's the Chinese that have a proverb that goes, do not speak less of yourself, or the warrior within will hear those words and be lessened by them. And there's yet another saying, again, paraphrasing a little bit, but something along the lines of, as within, so without. And so there's wisdom, thousands of years of wisdom from all over the world that recognizes that our outer world is often a reflection of our inner world. We don't have the time to keep going further and further down that logic, but let's just take that for now, as much or as little as you understand it. Let's take that for now and run with the facts that practically you can't affect everyone. You control everyone to just stop doing the things that are bad. We can't do that. But what we can do is work on what is within and notice as our lives start to change. And if more of us did that, what kind of world do you think we would live in? Would it be perfect? No, but that's because perfection doesn't exist. But we're all here because we want to keep progressing how we influence the solving of those challenges. That's what progress is, or it always has been. It's been us doing our best to serve a future world that we think and hope will be better than this one. And we're living in a time now where, because of access to technology, and not just knowledge, but wisdom, we can take a perspective on that development that for many thousands of years, we haven't been able to take. A lot of our ancestors accidentally stumbled into more problems than they realized when they were trying to fix them, which is why now we can live in, as Jimmy Carr describes, objectively the best time ever and subjectively the worst time ever. Let's make that both objectively and subjectively the best time ever by working on what we can affect. That's what I hope that this show will serve. So I just want to thank you one more time for being here, for being a part of this journey, for going on this journey of discovery with me and allowing me to be the facilitator for some of your journey. The best way to support is to just share things around. Send your favorite episode to someone, subscribe and follow and hit the notification bell and all those good things that we're all really tired of hearing, because it affects us. It does matter. It allows other people to see, hey, maybe this is something worth doing. So listen, whether you're listening to this the day it's released or in a few months from now, or maybe even in a few years from now, thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I have a lot of love for you. And I want us to give more of that love and appreciation to others. So let's go on this journey together. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend your time, a limited resource, here listening. And I'm excited for us to find out what transformations this helps us make together. So with that being said, have a fantastic one. And welcome, listener, to Lost and Searching. See you very soon.